Hi, it's me, Pam. Today I want to share with you the four main things I did to reignite my faith and basically reconnect with Jesus. Honestly, as simple as these four things are, they've allowed me to grow deeper in my faith and to feel the presence of Jesus well throughout my day. The first thing was probably the most important one, but the last one, for me anyway, was the game changer. Okay, I'm excited to share this with you, so let's jump right in. Okay, so let me start by asking you this. Have you ever gone home and found your spouse or roommate sitting in virtual darkness? And the funny thing was, they didn't even realize it had gotten dark because it had happened so gradually their eyes had adjusted to it. Well, that's what happened in my relationship with Jesus. Over time, I had gradually spent less time with him, prayed less and less, and found reasons not to go to things, even to worship team practice, which I loved. So, over time, my connection to Jesus had gradually gone dark. He was still there, I just didn't see him. So the first thing I did was to ask for his forgiveness, and then to make it a priority to spend time with him every day, and not just something I did when I had time. I began making time. And I know what you're thinking, that sounds simple, but I really don't have the time. Well, let me share with you something silly I read somewhere that was, well, kind of impactful for me. It went something like this. Do you think people with pets feed their pet every day, or just when they have time? What if they oversleep? Would they still feed them? I don't have pets, but even I can answer that. Of course they would. Without food and water, their pet wouldn't survive for long. First thing, make time to spend with Jesus. Okay, the second thing. One day I was reminded of a story about a couple who were riding down the road in their pickup truck. The wife was staring out her window, thinking about how she used to sit right next to him when riding in the truck. And now here she was over against the door as far as she could go. The more she thought about it, the angrier she got. She finally turned to him and angrily said something to him about it. Surprised, he looked over at her and said very calmly, "I'm still sitting in the same spot. You're the one who moved away." Well, the second thing for me was the realization that Jesus didn't move away, I did. We know that he often speaks in a whisper, and I just wasn't close enough to hear him. Or if I thought I heard him, I didn't do what he said because I wasn't sure it was him. Can you relate? And we know that obedience is a big deal. So the second thing for me was to obey what I heard. I realized I could probably tell it was him by what I thought I was supposed to do. I mean, if I had the sense that I was supposed to go to someone and ask for forgiveness for something they didn't even know I did, then yeah, that was more than likely Jesus. Well, the more I did this, obey what I heard, the more tangible his presence became. It was uncanny. So my second thing, obey what I sense he is telling me. Third was a realization that I did experience Jesus most days. I just didn't remember. Sometimes it was so subtle that if I wasn't paying attention, I missed it. So the third thing was to do something to help me remember. A friend had told me that she journaled everything, so I decided to use a journal as well. I bought a new one and just began writing down whenever I experienced Jesus. It didn't have to be anything big. In fact, most times it's small things, which is why they're so easy to forget. What I do is I put the date at the top of the page, and then I just write what happened. I don't worry about sentence structure or spelling. I just write. I wish I could say that I pick it up and read the entries often, but I don't. It's usually whenever I'm feeling, I don't know, out of touch, I guess. I then pick it up and read about all the times he allowed me to experience his presence. It's really quite remarkable. Here's an example of one I had totally forgotten about. I used to meet with a young friend for coffee every week. And one day I shared a devotional about glorifying God, and then talked about what it looks like to glorify him in our daily lives. After I finished, she looked at me and said, "You're not going to believe this, but I wrote down a note to remind myself to ask you about that very thing." We were both blown away because God knew what she needed and prepared me. If that's not a miracle, I don't know what is. I mean, there's no way that was a coincidence. Deuteronomy 4:9 says, "Only be careful and watch yourselves closely, so that you do not forget the things your eyes have seen or let them fade from your heart as long as you live." We are told to remember and to tell others. After reading over the entries to decide what to share with you, I was convicted about how many of them I had totally forgotten happened. What on earth? Third thing, figure out something to do to help you to remember. The game changer for me, though, was the realization that even though I didn't always feel his presence, he was still there. Would I still serve him, follow him, worship him, and obey him if I didn't feel him? Well, that is the essence of faith. So I realized that I needed to be faithful in my relationship with Him, regardless of how I felt, because faith isn't a feeling. Fourth thing for me to be faithful in my relationship with Him. See, I told you they were simple, but there really isn't any task that will bring us closer to Jesus. It's all about a relationship with Him, being with Him, and allowing Him to be with us. In the description below is a link to my prompted journal on Amazon called A Journal for Realignment that may help you in your daily walk with Jesus. If you have a minute, check it out. Okay, I know setting time aside every day can be tricky. I know. But spending time with Him every day is crucial because without spending time with someone, there is no relationship. So check out next week's video for some creative ideas for spending your time with Him because He is worthy of our time and our time with Him should be anything but boring. Let me pray Romans 15:13 over you. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in Him so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. Until next time, bye.